Hi, my name is Gerhard Gschwandtner, and welcome to the Sales Up Shop TV show.
This is Anthony Iannarino, and I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
And this is Tony Hughes. I'm from Sydney, Australia. Great to be on the call today.
My name is Jocko, and I am based in San Jose, California.
I'd like to share a clip now from Chef Gitomer.
Here's my quote. The less you work, the less you'll sell. The less you'll earn, the more broke you'll be. There, that's a quote. Tweet that. If you're really interested in making more money, you have to decide how much and be prepared to work for it. Work hard, work long and hard. Be easy to do business with. 24/7, 365 is the new 9 to 5. Your customers and prospects need your products and services, not your computerized answering device that pisses everybody, including me, off. Including you.
Gitomer is suggesting that 24/7 is the new 9 to 5. How do you relate to that?
Based on the devices that we have per today, we have indeed created a 24/7 culture. Also, if you're in sales, this is what our clients are expecting us. Their problems are not coming between 9 to 5 anymore either. So we have to be able to respond to them as the issues come up.
I think Gitomer's right about that. I also think he's right about something else. This whole notion that you can work 4 hours in a week and make great money and have this great lifestyle is nonsense. It's a fantasy. It's a fairy tale. And it's really, really horrible advice for people to think that they should work so little. They have to work harder now. We live in a global society. We're competing against global competitors. Chinese aren't starving anymore. They're starving for your job. That's what the real competition that we have now. And so I think this idea that you should work less is nonsense.
Yeah, Gerhard, certainly from my point of view, the thing I'm seeing down here in this part of the world is that salespeople have never worked harder than at any time previously. And technology absolutely invades people's work lives. So when an employer talks about work-life balance, I think what they really mean is invading a person's family life with work. But I think what's never been more important than before is for people to be very passionate about what they're selling today. Because it invades every part of your life, you need to be a true believer in what you're selling in the market, and you need to really enjoy the people that you work with and the customers that you have.
Let's go back to the work-life balance. There is a balance or an interplay between physical energy and mental energy. So the real question is, and maybe we look at a clip from Tony Schwartz, where he talks about the way we're working isn't working anymore. So let's look at that clip for a second.
How many of you would say, as you look back over the last 3 years, the demand in your life has significantly increased? And how many of you would say, even though it's increased, and most of you agree it has, that over the next several years it will go still higher? And so that leads us to the $64,000 question, which is this. If demand is already increased dramatically, and if it's only going to get still higher, how many of you believe that your capacity to meet that demand will rise right along with the demand? That's the problem that we face. The problem is that more, bigger, faster generates value that is narrow, shallow, and short-term. We find ourselves today in an energy crisis. We know about the energy crisis that relates to the resources of the planet, but we ourselves have an energy crisis. This one is personal. We are at a moment, at an inflection point, where we know that the way we're working isn't working. We need a new way of working. We need a new paradigm for a new age. We need to learn to manage our energy rather than our time.
What he's talking about, in my opinion, is that the reason why the way we're working isn't working is because going faster, bigger, and so on will continue to demand more and more of us. And most of us are already working at a high maximum every day. And so there's nothing more to give. I cannot work twice as hard, or I cannot work twice as smart. I'm at the maximum capacity. Whereas everything around me is constantly demanding more and more and more. And how am I going to cope with that? That's a summary of it.
Essentially, his idea is when you do physical exercise, you increase physical energy. But if you quiet the mind, you increase mental energy. So his idea is if you work, let's say, a 90-minute stretch and you are very concentrated about it, then your mental energy goes up.
Yeah, Gerhard, and I really agree with that. I myself am a cyclist, and I know that going for a 2-hour ride early in the morning, I often get my best ideas. And one of the big challenges I think we all face in the workplace today is just the enormous number of distractions, whether it's our boss knocking on our door wanting something unplanned, or us getting bombarded with email, instant messaging, and all of the other forms of communication. And the thing we all know, the thing that kills productivity is task switching. And in a world that's wired for distractions, where everybody wants us and expects us to be instantly available, I think it really destroys productivity. And we all end up working much longer hours, but being less effective.
I do my most difficult tasks first thing in the morning, and I find that following sort of what Schwartz talks about, but 90-minute intervals seem to be about the right amount of time, and then 15 minutes of doing something else so that you get a chance to recover. And I think that, and Tony is a cyclist, so am I. It's not only about the output, it's about taking time to recover from that output. And I think that's really Schwartz's central premise. I do all of my writing at 5 o'clock in the morning. And the reason I do it at 5 o'clock in the morning first is that no one in the world wants your time at 5 o'clock in the morning. Gerhard's just going to bed at that time. And between 5 and 6:30 or 7 o'clock, I'm completely interrupted, and my brain is completely clean. I have 100% of my psychic RAM because the world hasn't started interrupting me and making demands of me.
Excellent. Jaco.
Well, it sounds like all three of us have an athletic bug in us. As you may know, I'm a former semi-pro triathlete. And I can tell you definitely that mens sana in corpore sano is a great statement. A sound mind in a sound body, there's a real relationship to it. But he also talks about what I believe, what it really relates to me, is the idea about focusing. I believe that the problems that we have in today's life are so complicated that when I focus on one single task, I'm not seeing the perspective out of the corners of my eyes anymore. So the most creative part that I find, it doesn't come between 9 to 5 or after lunch or before lunch. These problems that we are faced with today, they are so complicated, they require creativity in order to fix things or in order to find a solution. And that may sometimes come at 2 a.m. in the morning, 2 p.m. at night, over lunch, during dinner. And for me, it is very much needed that I have a schedule that allows for that. So that when I wake up at 2 a.m., I can work for 3 hours, get the buck out of me, go back to bed, wake up at 10, and show up at the office late.
So let's move on and let's listen to Jim Schleckser.
I talk in the presentation about working where it's comfortable and not where it's uncomfortable. And where it's comfortable is what we're great at. And all of us are great at something. We're a great salesperson, or a great engineer, a great accountant, great marketer, whatever the thing happens to be. And it's very tempting for us to spend our time in that area because we're that good, we can make a contribution to the business. Sales guys are particularly bad at this because they come home, they bring home the dinosaur, and everybody butchers it up, and they had a big success. The problem is there's only so many hours you can work. And so if you become the motive force in the business through your engineering, your sales, your marketing, whatever the thing happens to be, you run out of time. Once you're working 70, 80 hours a week, you're going to double again, or you're going to work 160 hours a week. So you need to find a way to get out of player mode, bring talent in, and put systems in to execute the same thing that you normally would do as an individual contributor. It's very hard because it's so comfortable and so rewarding to do something we're great at. But if a CEO cannot make that transition from individual contributor to leader, the growth of the business will stop and stall.
I think the thing that's most common when you have a look at managers who try and execute the job of the salesperson in the field is often a salesperson who was a star who got promoted into management. And the thing that we know is that it's very rare for a great salesperson to also make a great manager. And the real job of the manager is to coach and mentor and then provide the tools to help people to actually operate effectively. So to really enforce a level of discipline about using sales process, CRM, and having a strategy when they go and call on customers. So the challenge is to be a good mentor and coach, not do people's jobs for them.
Let me make this easy for a sales manager who's struggling with this idea themselves. You have 10 reps and they each carry a quota of $2 million. You have a $20 million quota. If a rep can do 2 million, how can you do 20 million yourself? It's impossible. You probably can't do 2 with all the duties that you have as a sales manager, including what I see, sales managers end up serving the organization much more than they end up serving their people. That's the first crime I would indict the sales organization for. But there's absolutely no way you can do it yourself. The only thing that you can do, the only real asset you have to bring to bear on your problem, which is a $20 million quota, is to build that team of 10 so that they can all make their quota. There is no other way. And it's tough to explain this to sales managers, especially new ones who, like Tony described, were a star in their role. They're a super closer. They can walk in and they know they can close. And sometimes they have to, I understand. But if that's their primary role, they're ignoring the number one thing, which is to build those 10 assets so that each of those assets can make their contribution. And without it, you can't make your number.
It is very hard for a sales leader to get acceptance by his team. So it's not only that we need to have changes at the top and middle management, we also need to have an acceptance from performers that they will accept a leader who is more process driven or more coach driven than he is a hierarchical leader that is a super closer.
So what do you guys think about sales enablement? The term sales enablement is really all about enabling the salesperson to face the customer and share insight and get insight back.
I think we ask the sales force and the sales managers to do so much. There needs to be a role for sales enablement to say, we're going to take some of the burden off of preparing the sales force to compete from what would be a first-line sales manager or the salesperson themselves. But that said, I think some of the role for some sales enablement organizations have to change, because there is this reliance that sales enablement is going to take care of everything, and I don't have to be close enough to the customer to have that deep understanding of their business, and somebody else is going to provide me with marketing tools and a PowerPoint presentation, and that's going to be enough to carry the day. And it's not. It's just not going to do it. You've got to get close enough and still have that deep understanding. So I think some sales organizations are letting the sales force lean too heavily on sales enablement. And sales enablement, the sales enablement managers and directors I know are picking up the slack as much as they can. But I don't think it's a panacea. You've got to do your part too. The rep has to have that business acumen, the situational knowledge, and that deep understanding. They got to go get it and not lean so heavily and think that sales enablement's going to do that for them.
So you are voting for a balance between the tools and the processes and the individual business acumen of the salesperson, and also the capability to make something out of nothing.
You know me, Gerhard. I mean, I'm here to tell the salesperson, don't wait for anybody to do anything for you. It's 100% your responsibility to develop yourself. Whether your company develops you or not, whether they pay for training or not, it's your job to build your asset. You're the only asset you have to produce results, and if you don't do it, it doesn't get done.
So actually what you're doing is self-enablement.
Self-enablement's good.
What I'm trying to direct in sales enablement, I'm asking, this is a quick off-the-cuff question here, is I believe that traditional sales is more about productivity, and sales enablement is more about sales efficiency. And like for me to talk to our CEO and making that difference has been useful for me. I don't know if I'm on the right track here or if I'm going in the wrong direction.
Jacko, I agree with you 100%. I think the thing that sales enablement should focus on is all of the efficiency tools for the sales organization. Things like information portals, quoting templates, price books, approval processes, getting all of that numbskull hygiene stuff that can distract and make selling inefficient, getting all of that sorted out so the salespeople can focus on the higher value pieces. I agree with you.
But let's play the next clip.
So the last time you and I talked, we talked a lot about the importance of content in marketing, and the industry knows that. But when it comes to sales and sales enablement, what do marketing organizations and sales organizations really need to know about how to use content to enable sales?
So there are many sales, I'll call them messaging moments of truth, where there's a ton of content being delivered by the sales force, and as a result, that content is either created by marketing and those who want to have some control over the message, or it's fabricated by the field. When they need something, they make something. So there's an opportunity for content. The question is, who's going to own that and who's going to drive that? And it's not that marketers haven't in the past said, hey, I'm going to build content for the field. What we've discovered is that through research, about 90% of what marketing creates for the field goes unused.
So what is your take on sales enablement? Now that you are getting into a position of sales enablement, what scares you most about it?
Well, Gerhard, I think my take on sales enablement has everything to do with that it's more about efficiency and less about productivity. And what scares me the most is the high expectancy that we have of sales enablement overall, as it is a magic weapon in order to suddenly make an age-old problem disappear, or as a magic bullet, I think is the word for it, that will dissipate all the problems. I think what we can expect from sales enablement is like when you open the kitchen sink and when you start working on it, before you know it, like you're replacing the entire kitchen. And I think that has a chance of that has a chance of happening if those people who are in sales enablement.
I think one of the biggest challenges we've got in B2B enterprise selling is the massive disconnect between sales and marketing. Marketing owning sales enablement, I think, is actually quite problematic. We all know that in the 80s and 90s, the marketing departments trained salespeople how to sell with this feature, function, advantage, benefit mantra. But I think success in selling today is all about connectedness to markets. And I'm not seeing marketing departments do that. So sales enablement needs to breach both sales and marketing. And as far as marketing creating content for salespeople, what salespeople need today is not content. They need things that evidence insights and can go help them get engaged at more senior levels with customers.
What do you think, Anthony?
I think that on this content creation, marketing's really good at material, but I see salespeople, when they're asked to give a value proposition, it sounds like something that marketing wrote, and you hear it and you cringe as soon as you hear it. And I think what they're really lacking is some of what Tony said, and that's some concrete evidence-based proof providers. And so when we go out and we make these claims that we can help you increase your revenue, decrease your costs, and improve your profitability, the customer says, great, how? And then let me see where you've done this and show me how that works. Let me see some proof. And that's where salespeople are wholly ill-equipped, I think, in the field. We've got these nice insights, and we've got some case studies, and we've got really good social media presence, but the client wants to know, let me see some proof that that's what I can get so I can justify it internally. And we're back to this idea about building consensus. The one thing I think that the stakeholders are counting on the salesperson to do is help me justify it inside my own organization.
Well, to cap this off, I'd like to introduce a new tool that I think would be of value to every salesperson out there listening and every sales executive. Let's play this next clip.
Porsche, engineered for magic every day. Porsche, engineered for magic every day.
What comes to mind when we look at a Porsche?
I want one.
Jaco.
I think it's a great example of half the size, twice as powerful. I love that they're short. They get exactly the point across. If I want to see more, I know how to find more.
Anthony?
It's a wonderful forestalling, as we would call it in sales, right? I can't have a Porsche because I can't get my kid to school. Yes, you can. I can't get a Porsche because it snows where I live. Yes, you can. I think they've done a great job of forestalling the common objections to having a Porsche, and in my case, it worked. I'm just wondering, can I get 3 kids in there to deliver them to school in the morning? Because if that's a yes, I may have found a new car.
Thanks, everybody. It was a great show.
Thanks, Gerhard.
Yeah, it was a real privilege to participate today, Gerhard, and I'm looking forward to being at the Sales 2.0 conference in San Francisco.
Thanks for the opportunity to pitch in, Gerhard. It was very enlightening.